US and China seems to finally have reached an agreement on the tariffs, at least for the next 3 months. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the overall crypto market has performed very well, but usually after a huge rally in a short span of time, we tend to see a little bit of a sideways action before going for the next leg up, which is exactly what we saw in November after Trump's election, and now most likely is what we're going to be seeing again. So let's talk about all of this in today's video. Hello, I hope you guys had an amazing weekend. I only traded spreads on Saturday, not on Sunday. It was Mother's Day, so I did not do any trading then. I just stayed with the family. But today, most likely, we will have some more opportunities to get in and do some spreads again. But let's start with the news. From Reuters, we have this article right here saying that US and China reach a deal to temporarily slash tariffs, easing up slump fears. And you can see that the US will cut tariffs from 145% all the way to 30%, and China will cut from 125% all the way to 10%. So the US will still tax 30% out of everything coming from China. Meanwhile, China will tax 10%, but it is way better than the over 100% numbers that we had just a few hours ago. So that being said, this had a huge impact on the market. You can see that the futures for the US have already started to climb 2.5%, 3%, 3.85%, 4.64%. So the US market is hopeful that this will be good for the economy, and we can see, so most likely the S&P 500 will open with a gap, and that is good for us. So that being said, you look right here at our coins and you see Bitcoin at 103,806, Ethereum at 2,536, XRP at 245, BNB at 678.34, Solana at 174. So our favorite coins are doing very well. My spot wallet is up 15% in just this weekend. So very good. I was even chatting with some friends. Even Ricardo mentioned that Ethereum most likely will perform well, but other altcoins will also do fine. So for example, Stellar, Sui, those are doing very good. And I have a little bit of those in my spot wallet, for example, and they're performing super well. That being said, regarding Ethereum, BlackRock is talking with the SEC for a possible ETF on Ethereum with staking. So that will be pretty much synthetic dividends on top of your ETF. Of course, I personally am not a huge fan of ETFs because, again, not your keys, not your crypto, especially if you don't even have keys because it is an ETF. So at the end of the day, are you really holding Ethereum or are you just holding exposure to it? And if are you just holding exposure, why not just buy a leap on Ethereum instead? So these are my thoughts behind ETFs, and the logic behind it, I don't think it makes sense, especially if you want to have ownership on that. That being said, the copy trading is doing very good. We're back at 1.8% on the copy trading, and we surpassed $2.1 million in assets under management. So very exciting to see that. And if you haven't checked it out, the topics is the first link in the description where you can do the copy trading or you can do the spreads yourself. We've covered spreads before, and most likely Wednesday, so next video will be a video talking about the spreads once again. So that being said, liquidations, we have been almost 50-50, very balanced on long and short positions. You can see 54.7% of all positions liquidated were shorts, so pretty much even, which brings us to a total of $402 million liquidated in the past 24 hours across all exchanges, all blockchains. So now if we go and look at Bitcoin, you can see that Bitcoin for the short term isn't looking very good. It has a stronger magnet at the bottom than at the top, and we can actually see that a huge wick on this green candle right here, which had strong volume, but we lost momentum. But we did touch the 105,700 here. Still, the momentum wasn't good, so we lost that and we went down. So now we most likely are going to be looking at this number right here, which is the 103,000 flat. So that would bring us right around here. So I think once we get close to this, we're going to be holding on top of the moving average, which we did before. You can see right here, we tested it again or very close to it. So most likely we're going to be bouncing on this again. So by switching to the daily, you can see once we have huge explosions, we go sideways a bit. We bounce back on the averages. And now most likely we're going to do the same thing right here. We should meet the averages right here. Maybe we're going to go sideways for a little bit, and then we should see all-time highs once again. This is how I see it playing for Bitcoin. If you look at liquidations on Ethereum, you can see Ethereum has a strong interest point at the bottom as well. You can see we saw right here a huge liquidation. Then we went towards the top, we liquidated a bunch, and now we're retesting this sideways market again, most likely looking at the 2400, the high 2400, and we can see the same thing here with Ethereum. So we were overbought once, twice, and now we're slowing things down, waiting for the market, to take a breather. We touched the top of the Bollinger, so most likely we're going to be testing the bottom of the Bollinger, which coincides with these numbers that we saw back there on the liquidation heat map, which should be right around right here, the 2485, 2479, around these numbers. So most likely in the short term, we're going to see a bounce right here and then shoot back up. Maybe we go sideways and maybe we just go back up and rally. Last but not least, Solana. Solana has a strong magnet at the top at the 180, 181. So if you look right here, the 180 is right here. So above the current tops right here that we saw, which was around 180. So the 181 is a little bit above the current top, which requires a lot of movement for us to reach that. If Bitcoin and Ethereum keep going down, Solana will just trade sideways, even if it is positive, even if it is bullish. It has a lot of potential and it doesn't show bearish signals like the other two. For inertia, it will keep going as the bigger two are going, but Solana seems to have a lot of strength right here. And if the other two give it some air, we should see Solana go indeed towards the 180 and the 181. I hope you're able to see right here market conditions and get prepared, especially now with the volatility coming in after the cuts in tariffs between US and China, which are the biggest ones. The ones that we should be worrying about are those cuts, because China produces everything for the world and the US usually imports everything for the world, especially in the technology sector. So that's something we have to keep an eye on. Let me know what topics you would like to see in these videos for me to cover. If you wanted more trade related, if you wanted more news related, or if you want a balance between those two, a little bit of one, a little bit of others in the same video, in separate videos, let me know. We're trying to figure out things here to get the best content for you guys, but we need your feedback. Otherwise, all of this is pointless. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. Hope you guys had an amazing end of the weekend, and I hope this is a very profitable weekend for everyone of us. I'll see you Wednesday. Take care.